So, yesterday I told you about 1918 and how a man traveled to Poland, leaving his family behind in Odessa, and how that family eventually reached Poland 5 years later. But today I'm going to tell you about a time 50 years before 1918, in fact 55 years, the year 1863, when there was an uprising in Poland against the Tsar. The cause of the uprising was essentially resentment of the Tsar, the anger of a certain group of landowning people who had to allow their children to be conscripted into the army of the Tsar. And when a person was conscripted, he had to go to fight for the Tsar, normally in the areas of the Caucasus. And when he marched away from his home in Poland, a young man was going to go and fight for the Tsar for 25 years. You were conscripted for the majority of your young life, and the very powerful likelihood was that when you marched away to go and fight in the Caucasus, you were not coming home again, ever. And so a great deal of anger arose about this from amongst the land-owning class, who in 1863 formed small bands all over Poland and fought against the Tsarist troops. And in my family, 3 brothers joined the rebellion. Sadly, the rebellion lasted only for a matter of months, and all of these 3 boys were arrested and captured, and the 2 older brothers were hanged by the Russians in their own village, in front of the people of the village, as an example to them that they shouldn't rebel against the Tsar. And the youngest of the 3 brothers was a boy of 15, and the sentence that was passed against him was lifelong banishment with 7 years, the first 7 years of that banishment, to be served in Siberia. And so as a 15-year-old boy, he went to Siberia, and when he was 22 and he was released from prison there, he wasn't allowed to go home, but he was allowed to go and live in an emigre community in Odessa, where as a young man he started to work, and once he had established himself, he found himself a wife who came from the area of Minsk, far north of Odessa, and he was found a wife by proxy. The young girl who he married was sent from Minsk without ever meeting the man who she was going to marry. She was sent to Odessa. She met this guy. There was a ceremony. They got married, and they started a family there, somewhere around about the year 1875 or 1880. And they had 5 children. 2 of them were girls, 3 of them were boys. And the eldest of these boys was my grandfather. He was the man who, in the year 1918, when no longer young, who decided that he was going to go back to Poland. And when you think of it, it was 55 years after his father left the country that was where the flame in their hearts was burning.